Actually, just quickly while we have you, there's a couple items that I just want to run by you. One is after we spend down the 15K from climate change, that extra additional funding, and we've been using it for Virginista, we have to use it up everything by June. And there's still a little bit of money left over. And I know, you've been paying Heroku out of pocket. And I'm wondering if you want any reimbursement from that with that money, because it'll have to go somewhere.
Only if there's absolutely nothing else we can spend it on.
Okay. Sure. I'll keep that in mind. I can circle back and see what else we could spend it on. I mean, if for such a small amount, maybe we can give it to another, like Kevin or something. But expense-wise, it's that I think Heroku is the current only other out of pocket expense we have.
Okay.
But it's good to know that that's an option. But if you could, there's that doc you were tracking the sort of the payments for that. I can dig up that link if it's hard to find. There was just like a financial history sheet. Just to have an idea of how much that would be helpful too. And I think
I think it's up to date.
Oh, okay. I haven't looked at it recently. I had asked a little bit ago, but I haven't looked at it since then. Okay. If it's up to date, that's great. I'll double check and circle back if there are any questions.
Okay.
And then, so just to clarify, thanks for those comments on that. The problem with the analysts we're seeing because I think there was that EPA wide menu change. So stuff was rendering weird. So that should just affect the current cycle, right? Because it's sort of changed across everything. And then,
assuming they don't make a similar sort of change.
Well, yeah,
at some other point in time.
Right. But I mean,
Sure.
This particular change will just is just dealt with this cycle. Because I think it was showing up the same thing was showing up in different ways in the side-by-side render. Like sometimes it would just show everything was different. But if you go back and you look at the highlighted text, it's like you see the same change that you were showing in those screenshots online. So it's obviously the same diff. It's just I think the rendering sometimes gets.
Well, so think about it this way. If what happened is all the menu moved to the other side of all the content, either you say the menu was removed here and added here, or you say the content was all the content was removed here and added here. And which of those things winds up happening depends a little bit on the diff algorithm itself and a lot on what things about the structure of the page the diff has to take into account.
Right.
And both of those are very different across those two kinds of diffs. And the visual one is tending, in a lot of the cases, to show that all the content was removed and added, which is why it looks that way.
Right.
I don't know that there's a reasonably feasible way for us to not do that, and it's not wrong either.
Yeah. Right. No, that I totally get. It's
I mean, people were as alarmed by saying all the menu stuff changed,
right.
But it didn't change.
Yeah.
It's one of these, like, you gotta look at the different
pick your poison. But what was it expected that in the diffing sometimes it shows like in this cycle sometimes it shows the menus being moved and sometimes it shows the content being moved?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this happen before.
Okay.
This is not the first time that a site has made a major change to where content lives on the page, and everything has appeared to be highlighted. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that sort of the Right. Because, I guess the specifics of the page might dictate if the menus look like they've swapped or the content look like it's been moved.
Exactly, because a lot of it depends on the structure, because the HTML, the rendered diff takes the structure into account.
Right. Okay.
The textual diff has no concept of structure.
Right. Okay. Great. Because I think there was still some remaining questions, but I think I have enough to sort of circle back and try to explain a little bit more to the analysts. But that's super helpful. Thanks. And then, okay, no analyst updates. Oh, thanks for that, that paper sketch of the system diagram that you did about a week ago. I got sidetracked, but I'll definitely incorporate most of that into the next revision. I think it'll just be a helpful way to sort of include into the documentation. Kevin's actually working on another iteration on that too, and I think he's just going to sketch some stuff out on some of the UI stuff.
Okay.
In his mind, and then hopefully we can just sort of get that into the docs, and then move that forward or close that out. And then let's see. The other thing is with the Internet Archive. So. Thanks for the working with the student Vangelis. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He's like a developer at Internet Archive, and he's the mentor. I think they're both in Greece.
I think so.
Yeah, he was saying he's like +2 UTC. So at the very least, they're like 7 hours ahead of me, 10 hours ahead of you. Do you think a meeting would be useful for the group at this point or not?
I mean, I don't know if they're heading somewhere specific with it, that having a synchronous chat would help us better support or help them better know what to do. They're not surfacing issues, they're asking lots of questions, so it doesn't feel like there's confusion that needs to be solved.
Right.
They're just proposing PRs that are generally good stuff. I mean, they need lots of polishing and cleanup, but they're like the right things to be doing. Okay.
And there's nothing more prioritized. I mean, I think it's good that they're sticking to like that one, like we were talking, I saw the video from last week that, if they're keeping to, the processing repo rather than like the UI repo, that's probably a better place for them to sort of work. But if there's stuff in that, or even in DB, that you want to surface as more higher priority, then we can definitely, I think, circle back to them about that stuff.
Okay. I mean, I get the impression that what they're trying to do is make use of our tools, not really contribute to our effort necessarily, which is fine, right? Like that's half the reason they're open source. Right. And so DB is basically of zero value to them because they are the Internet Archive.
Yeah. Right. We're pulling from them. They're not.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then one thing I did notice too was, there was some things like, just linting and like PEP 8 kind of conventions. And, is it worth trying to get Vangelis? I'm not to like work on that with the student rather than you. I just, and Dan, or is it sort of resolved, you think, and it's not worth bringing up?
I mean, that's just the work of reviewing any pull requests anywhere. I mean, it would be great if like it was perfect the first time, but it's never perfect the first time. Sure. I mean, I don't know what he would do differently.
Okay.
Other than say, never submit any code before I've looked at it, which seems like a terrible barrier to put in somebody's way, and a great way to make them hate their internship.
Yeah, That's true. I guess it's just that, like we were very cautious and like agreeing to it. And then, I was trying to express like that, I'd wanted, we, with the expectation with that, the IA mentor would be doing most of the mentoring. But if he's just doing pull requests and then you're the first person to look at it, then, like, I don't know if you're right. Adding another layer probably doesn't really make it for a great experience, but it's also, your time and Dan's time is very valuable, and something like linting seems pretty universal to programming. That is it the best use of your time is my question.
Well, I mean, if it's specifically like PEP 8 stuff, then we probably just need to add the right flake rules. I mean, really, CI runs Flake, and so it should be screaming about more of these things. Actually, I was very surprised that it didn't fail the pull when there were like no spaces around operators.
Right.
Or even just that the plus operator was used to concatenate strings. I was surprised that CI didn't fail. So I think we don't have the right configuration that we should have.
Okay.
That's a different thing, right?
Sure.
But also, like, I wouldn't want to prognosticate about all the mentoring that we're not seeing, right? Like, I don't know how much is like, is it Fotis? Whatever.
Yeah,
the
I'm not
intern.
quite. Yeah, like
How much like he is just going off and doing whatever, or whether
right.
there's a whole lot of discussion about like what he's doing in the overall structure of it before he writes it. Like there
Right.
could be like a boatload of stuff going on. Or
Yeah,
there could be none. I don't know.
yeah, I think there's something in the middle because he did actually last Monday give a quick shout out in the Scanner IA Slack channel. Like we're starting, but he didn't at anyone, or at least he didn't at me, so I didn't get the notification. So I've switched notifications so I just get alerts on everything in that channel for now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we either can try to keep that conversation there or try to bring them into web monitoring. I don't know if it's helpful, but he did say, because I went to that channel just to say like, who's the mentor? And he's like, I'm the mentor. And it's like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And, I just want to make sure that he said they're communicating a lot on stuff, which is great. But, maybe we can try to make some of that a little more visible to everybody else, just so that we know what, so we're not wondering like, what are they talking about? What are their plans on as well? And how much of that they need to surface, I'm not sure, but maybe a little bit more than we're seeing right now might be helpful. Was my only thought.
Okay.
I'll sort of go a little down further that path. But if you do have concerns, please raise a hand and we can try to figure something out. If it's like, okay, cool. Aside from that, do you have any updates?
Nope.
Okay. I know Kevin was a little stuck on some staging stuff. I think it's getting resolved. I actually reached out to Francis to see if he could just try to finish the last bit of the Ansible stuff. And he said I heard back from him, this is directly to email because sometimes it's faster for him that way. But he was at a conference and he's going to try to actually take a look this week, which would be great because I think Dan is still, going to be tied up for another few days. That kind of handoff is always tricky, maybe, but if it's truly not that much more work, maybe it'd be great if Francis could just wrap it up and then we could, get a proper staging environment sort of back. And then Kevin can maybe even start doing that kind of stuff by himself. Okay. That's sort of all I have left to report. And I guess we'll just circle back with Kevin and Toli afterwards. Any other things on your plate that you want to bring up?
Nope.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Good to catch up with you as always. And I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks, Rob.